All right. Take two.
Here we go.
Here we go.
What is up, everybody? Hey, episode 6.
Episode 6.
How you like that?
Wow.
I know,
Going
right?
quick.
We're just banging these things out
Yeah.
left and right, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right. As always, we got Jeremy Bryan here. We got Tyler Ellegard. We've got our in-house Cato Kalin. I'm gonna, do you guys even know who Cato Kalin is?
I don't.
Oh,
but
wow.
I feel like Keith is getting a bonus or something for every podcast he
I
does.
should. I'm bringing a lot of subs.
Keith's just here for the subs. Cato Kalin. You guys don't know this. Okay. I got to give you, I'll give you the 30
you know who that
seconds.
is?
I
O.J.
know who
Simpson.
O.J. Simpson is.
Yes. During the case, there was a house guest that ended up being on the stand, and he ended up being kind of pseudo famous. He was Cato Kalin, and he was really famous for just being a couch surfing house guest. That's Keith for us.
Yeah. Just
Couch surfing.
go with the flow.
he's just here. I mean, sometimes he just like wanders in. And
Oh, you guys didn't even invite me.
Throw,
All
throw
right.
headphones on, Keith. Let's see what you got.
Sounds about right.
Well, our recurring guest, but now we've got our first timer here. We got Lisa Schreiber in the house. Lisa, how you
Yes.
doing?
Good. Cannot believe you gave me a microphone.
Yeah, applause. I don't think I got that my first time.
You got it the first time, and then,
All
and
right.
then
Well,
you know.
remember, he didn't know how to use it at that
Yeah,
point.
that's true. That is true. I started to
When
figure
you
it out.
started, he didn't have any
Yeah.
idea how to use that board. So, and I still don't, so I can't talk. Lisa, what's going on?
So yeah, I'm really excited to be here today. So thank you. I'm excited to
Just-
join the young side.
Yeah,
here.
exactly, right? We're segmented. She's already hitting us, Gangl.
No,
Look at this.
It's
Yeah.
not right.
Within the first
Coming in
minute,
swinging.
there's the first minute, our gray hair just gets flown out.
Some of us had hair. Some of them didn't have so much.
Well, welcome to the pod. I'm glad
Thank
you're
you.
having. Hopefully, you'll be a recurring guest. We won't call you the Cato Kalin since you don't even, you might not even been born when that was a thing.
It's not really a compliment either.
It's not at all. So- all right. Well, let's get started here. Hot button. Let's start with that right now. And I want to talk about the consumer, the U.S. consumer. And I read a stat the other day that we talked about it. The S&P 500 companies talked about the consumer and the health of the consumer more this last quarter than they talked about in the last couple of years, right? We've had some very different reports based upon the companies you're looking at. The consumer could either be at the end of their rope or no different than they've been before. So, Gangl, I'll start with you. Like, why do we, let's start with this. Just why do we think the consumer is so important? Like, well, why do we pay so much attention to it?
Yeah, consumers drive about 2/3 of GDP, so it's about 66% of the overall GDP growth tied to consumer spend. So that is why we pay attention. And obviously, again, we're talking about macro stuff like economics. We're concerned about unemployment, right? Unemployment's low. Consumers have money they like to spend, which again drives 2/3 of the overall economy, and that's what we like to look at. And lately, we've seen a lot of different data points, some positive and some not so positive.
Yeah. I always say it pretty easily that, we spend money better than anybody else on the planet, right? It's what we do well as
Pretty
Americans.
accurate.
Yeah.
As soon as you get the paycheck, it goes
Yeah.
right out the door.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes more than that.
Yeah, that's true.
Tyler, we saw retail sales data was a little flattish, and we saw some company earnings. Can you kind of just show us where we are? Like who is good, who is bad, and what do we believe? What do we don't believe?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to talk retail sales, so retail sales from an economic standpoint wasn't as blockbuster, I think you could say, as people were hoping. I
Yeah.
mean, from a month over month standpoint, it was flat, so we didn't see any increase, but we didn't see any decrease. So that's, I guess, you could take that as positive news. But I think the big concern right now is that you're starting to see it decelerate,
Mhm.
right? So now, on a year-over-year basis, you saw it at 3% last month. So, and if you start to adjust that for inflation sitting at 3.4%, now you're actually on a real retail sales basis, sales are actually declining.
Okay.
Right. I think that's the big concern that the market is trying to grapple with right now. But then you can extrapolate that into looking at some of the other companies and say, how were their earnings? Are they the beneficiary of the current consumer trend, or are they not? And I think we saw that from like a Starbucks perspective. We saw it from a McDonald's perspective. But then the other side of the coin is you had really good report from Chipotle, right? You also had a good report from, and I know we'd bang on this one a lot, is Costco. Costco is just kind of the steady.
Well, Gangl spends $300 every other day there. So
pretty much, unfortunately.
But then even
Same
this
here.
morning, yeah, you too. But then even this morning, you had Williams Sonoma that actually had a pretty good report.
Oh, I missed that one.
Yeah,
right?
that was
The
solid.
stock is up, I think, like 8 or 9% right now.
People buying pots and pans left and right.
Yeah, they
So
are.
I think from my thought process here is there's a pretty significant bifurcation in the consumer and where their income range is at.
Mhm.
And I saw a report, or maybe this is kind of a hot take right now, but someone came out with an article on Walmart, and I think part of the article had a comment from one of the ex-US presidents of Walmart, like ran the US division. And he was saying that their significant performance on earnings this last quarter was more driven by the higher end consumer, or the higher income tax bracket consumer, switching from like a Target or a Lunds and Byerly's or something that's a little bit more expensive and coming down to a Walmart type level,
All right.
rather than the lower end consumer actually spending a lot.
Gotcha.
So I think there's I think two different dynamics: consumer trends up on companies, but then also the different income.
So there's more
ranges.
BMWs in Walmart parking lots. Is that
Yeah,
what we're kind of saying?
Pretty much, yeah.
gotta
That was
check that
what
out.
he was saying.
Here's where I would say it. And Lisa, you back me up on this, or tell me I'm full of it. I think Walmart's e-commerce business is actually bringing in a different customer base, and I'll use anecdotals, which aren't perfect for investment, but I'm one of them. I rarely, if ever, went to a Walmart before. If I had to stop in for something, sure, why not? But it wasn't one of my normal shopping experiences. As part of one of the cards and points I got, Walmart Plus, I gave it a shot. It actually works really, really well. It's really convenient. It's there the same day. You order, you get it within 4 hours. I think that's bringing in people that maybe wouldn't go to a physical Walmart, or just don't make it part of their normal excursion, but they're like, yeah, they got produce, they got everything I need, and I'll have it in my front door. Lisa, what do you think that's happening a little bit?
I think so too, because when you're normally not the typical Walmart consumer, but when you get it delivered, I think it doesn't matter. It comes more down to prices rather than to the actual store experience. So I'm from Austria, so we don't have such big warehouses there. So I mean, living now.
I thought you were from Idaho.
South Dakota.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But we do not have such big warehouses. So I am more in the stage right now and living here for 2 years. But I really enjoy going there because I'm still stunned by the vast.
You're just immersed by the
selection.
size. Yeah.
people watching
Yeah.
going on.
Yes, right. It's like, whoa. How
This
many
is America,
products?
right?
Yeah, America. But yeah, I get it, right? With people who are working, and it takes actually a long time to kind of plan for your groceries and go and buy them. So I think when you order them, why not cheaper?
Yeah, it's a bag in the front door at the end of the day at there.
yeah.
And so what's the
No matter where it's
what's the
coming from,
online
yeah.
experience
Yeah.
like, which actually with Walmart Plus is actually pretty good. I've
Has
enjoyed
that
it.
taken away from like your Amazon, the amount of Amazon stuff, or is it
No.
a different purchase that you're making?
Yeah, different purchase. So with Walmart Plus, I use it as much more. I can get it in 4 hours, so it's like on-demand grocery, right?
Sure.
Where it's taken away from me going to the grocery store,
Got
which I am a very big fan of, actually, by the way. And now, because I've done it frequently enough, it's got my reorders all kind of set. So I'm just kind of pushing buttons.
Yeah.
Yep, I need that again, and just refilling. It does take away from like the experiment, like,
Buy that.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that looks interesting. And that's the Costco experience, right?
Yep,
Especially
that's
for
what I
you.
do,
Yeah. That does take away from that. But for the most part, it's like if I'm buying milk, I just want milk,
Yeah,
and let's
right.
call it a day. And so that part has been a pretty big success for me. And honestly, I've used Target's too, and Target's experience has been just as good. So I think the e-commerce side, people are understanding that, and I think it will bring a different demographic to their business. Again, I'm not sure how many BMWs are rolling into Walmart parking lots, but I think that component could bring a different demographic to their business that they didn't have before.
And I just read about Walmart is introducing like a higher end house brand to bring in more of those people, like higher end, higher income people.
Okay.
Where they, I don't know, introduce like special ice creams, like very fancy ice creams, for example, or just fancy things like a higher. I think what is their house brand name?
Great Value, I think it is. Yeah.
And that's a separate one, but.
I pulled that one out of nowhere, to be honest with you.
I'm not a Walmart shopper.
Yeah.
Are you guys all brand loyal?
No.
You'll do whatever?
I really don't care.
Okay.
So, I mean, between Walmart and Target's the comp, right? I definitely go to Target, not Walmart.
But I meant more like Bounty towels versus whatever's in there.
I'm a Costco guy, like we all refer to. So Kirkland's
exactly. My whole wardrobe, again, 90% of my wardrobe is Amazon and Kirkland. So
I mean, like we do ship from Target, which is Target's like home delivery service, and we'll do our whole grocery order through them, and we'll pick stuff out online, and then they'll text us, say, hey, this brand is out, or this whatever you picked is out of stock. Do you want this other brand or just skip? And we'll just get the other brand.
Right.
Like I don't really care.
Gotcha.
As long as I have what I want.
Gotcha.
I guess.
Well, the reason I asked, Lisa, is because I was just thinking when you were saying that, I was like, I tend to think the higher income demographic tends to be more brand conscious, right? I want the Bounty towels or whatever it is because that's the cool one.
I don't know if you can put me in the
high
bracket though. So
no, I was just wondering, is somebody like a Walmart high end brand? Yeah. Is that, I mean,
a high end house brand?
Yeah, that's what I was like, because I was
if
under
the design aesthetic is there, I'll buy it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, if it's not a yellow and black box back in the day.
It was white and black for a while.
White and black for a while, yeah, too. So at least they've got, right. Well, here we go on the old young thing again. But yeah, from that side, at least they figured out like branding is important, right? The box has to look like something you'd actually want to buy rather than being forced into buying it, which is a good thing. All right, we're gonna move on. I want to nerd out here a little bit because we're gonna have some fun at Lisa's expense because we all get to pile on as buyers versus renters of homes. So we've got 3 buyers and we've got 1 renter here.
That's correct.
Well, and we also, we talked about Gangl being a couch surfer in our podcast room. Gangl was like a
professional.
You were
we have to learn a little bit
level.
from you. I have to interview you.
Well, no, I don't know if you like that. I mean, I didn't have my own. I had my own apartment for a little while, but it's usually in buddy's basement, brother's basement. The couches for a while, and then I built our house in when I was 30. That same house I'm still in right now, just so by the way. So I did a lot of couch surfing between 22 and 30.
Well, yeah, don't let Gangl, you don't undersell it, man. You built your own house.
I love how
like I can't even I couldn't build one thing in my own house.
I can build a Billy shelf from IKEA.
Oh,
and I'm really proud when I get that accomplished. That's pretty much it.
That's high end stuff because that's like 74 steps, and I'm always have leftover material. I don't know how that happens, but it's a problem. But anyway, so I have a hot take, and I want you all to tell me that I'm wrong. I think personal housing as an investment is among the worst investments you can have. I think it stinks. I think it is,
unless you build it.
Unless you build it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I would have 4 fingers left, so the cost of loss of fingers would be the problem for me there. That the housing bills would more than supersede that,
especially back in those days with material costs.
But just think about, so when I think about housing it as an investment, right? It's a forced saving mechanism, right? I get it, right? Is at the end of the day, you're going to pay and you're going to get this thing at the end. Me personally, I don't think you ever recoup what you put into it. Who has the other side of that argument here?
I don't. I mean, I 100% agree with you on that.
I disagree with that. I mean, I think it's a forced investment, right? So you're putting money in that you would be paying rent. Rent goes up just like housing. There's a point in time where rent is actually cheaper than buying a house per se. But right now, I think over the long period of time, you're putting that money in that you'd be having an expense that you would not get anything back on it. Obviously, house payment, rent payments, say they're equivalent. After 10 years of making house payments, you have some sort of value. Your argument is that you would other costs going into your house that would offset that savings amount. I mean, right? Because if I bought a house for $200,000, I assume in 10 years from now it'd be worth $250,000 to say, be conservative, right?
Yeah.
That's $50,000 of equity.
Right.
And then that, if I lived in a renting place for 10 years of say $2,000, whatever that math would be, that would be a pure expense. So that's where we disagree.
Yeah. Here's where I would give you a little credit on that, is that if you are somebody like you, who fixes their own stuff and builds their own things, there's an argument to be made there, right? Because you're not paying massive amounts of labor costs and all this stuff because here's always the thought is that if you buy that asset now and you just let that stay the exact same, your return is going to be terrible, right? Because your house is going to look dated. It will fall apart, be dilapidated. So you have an ongoing maintenance expense that has to factor into what that ending price would be, right? Is that I have a continual thing that I have to update this, I have to fix that so that the thing doesn't fall apart, right? Renters don't have to do that. They're just paying for the ability for someone else to do that. It's expensive out there now to get somebody to do anything for your house. I mean, there's no $500 project at all anymore, right? That does not exist. It's $1,000 project at minimum, and usually significantly higher than that.
But I mean, here's the other thing: is like, do you pay to get your carpets cleaned, your vents cleaned out? Like,
mostly do it ourselves. Tyler, let's flip this on the head. Is like the fact that you just went and bought a house. Why? I mean, if you're in the stance of renting is better, why didn't you tell your wife
I'm not in the stance that renting is better. I'm in the stance that personal housing is not a good investment.
Yeah, and I don't think I would
think
say
owning a house is better longer term because you do get the equity and you do pay that off over time, and you at the outset, like 95% of my monthly payment to my mortgage is interest anyways. So like, is there really any savings going on right now? Not really. But I think over a longer period of time, owning is much better than renting. But from an investment standpoint, you have, as Jeremy said, you have to put so much money back into the house. Like we used to live in a townhouse before we sold it. And yeah, we made money on it. But I think if you add up all of the stuff that we did to it, because we basically renovated the whole thing, I don't know how much break even I would say we got on it. I mean, we obviously saved up a lot with it, but I think the stuff that we put into it, and I did most of it myself anyways, but I still don't think the return on my investment of what I put into it was that great.
Yeah, I get your overall investment. I mean, that's great, but you're avoiding that expense of rent, right?
Yeah.
If you would have rented that townhouse for how long? That's where I guess we're getting a little technical on whether it's a great investment. I think it's a good longer term
thing,
and maybe not as great as the stock market. Maybe it doesn't return 7-10% per year. So I guess from that standpoint, yes, but you still have to have the expense of that you're renting, that money's going out the door that you're not getting back.
I get you on that. I'm arguing this and I own a house. But here's why.
Not for long, I guess.
Right. Exactly. Wife kicks me out. She's like, well, you wanted to rent, go for it. No, the thought is I want my living space to be exactly what I want it to be. I want to be able to custom tailor my home to my life. You can't do that in renting. That's why I own a house. Do I think I'm going to make a ton of money off it? No. But that's not why I own it. And Lisa, you're our sole renter.
Yes.
But you don't want to be, right? Is that fair to say?
So, yeah, I would say we're like a little bit forced renters now. So we are on the look for a house, but we are not in a rush to buy a house.
Yep.
Because where we are coming from, like it's more normal to rent anyways.
Okay.
So both of my husband and I, we grew up in apartments. So it's not like the thing you have to check.
Yeah.
That you have a house at a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
Which we feel, I mean, we want a house, like you said, not for an investment, but more for being more flexible of how you design it, of how you make it your own, have an outside area, have more privacy, all of that. But we don't think it's a good investment overall.
Yeah.
So we are not in a rush to buy, and with interest rates right now and not finding the right thing. So we take really our time, and some people might think we overthink it because we really discuss and think a lot about it.
That's the American way right there.
Right,
Don't think about don't think about the biggest expense of your life. Just do it.
It's got to be
Right,
impulse buy.
It is anyways, right? Because when you found it, you have to buy, put an offer in, and you do not have the time to think about it 2 weeks if you want to buy it or not. But anyway, so we put a lot of thinking into it and discussions, and we are not sure where and when, and townhouse or condo or a house. So I think we are a little bit closer of knowing at least what we want, because we know, okay, when you buy a house, that's your space for the next years.
Yes.
So you lose a little bit of flexibility also on this point.
You do.
So
Also, it's a little self-inflicted though, on being forced renters, isn't it?
What do you mean, Tyler?
Did she tell you what they did?
So-
I heard this yesterday. This is
So
crazy.
actually, like,
Talk about impulse buy.
it was pretty much, So actually, we're saving for down payment and stuff. So we try to kind of get our savings and everything in order to have as much as possible for a down payment when a house comes up. And we used a little bit of that to buy an airplane last week. So
That's very practical.
the first I want to position myself as the conservative, responsible adult, and then I run an airplane. So to be fair, to full disclosure, it's a fourth of a share. So we did not buy the whole thing. So when something happens,
I hope you got one of the engines.
A parachute at least.
Yeah.
We probably have to save a little bit more to get back on track. But
Lisa's got us all now, right? I bought an airplane.
Yeah.
It is just that just trumps all
technically
of
my
us.
husband. So
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, like her and I always look at houses just because I show her different areas of the market and where we live and where we like and where we used to
I
live.
use him a lot.
And so then the other day she comes in and she goes, "Yeah, we bought an airplane." I was like, "Are you serious?"
That's not going to fit in that 3-car garage I just showed you.
He's basically my realtor showing me where we should go, right? The little grasshopper just new to Minnesota, like where I should live. And I was like, I screwed up.
All that wasted time, Tyler.
right.
All your research down the drain.
That never happened. All right, that's enough of nerding out. Let's go to wait, what? I like this one. Just because I don't know if a ton of people know this one, but very simply, America is now the top oil producer in the world. I'm just going to let that marinate there for a second. Because I think that I think the general populace doesn't think that, right? They still think Middle East, right? For everything. We have had a massive shift in production here. Started with fracking and all that fun stuff, but just general production and our technology and everything else has gotten better to where we are pretty darn self-sustaining on energy production if we need to be, right? We still import. Tyler, who's the biggest two importers of that we take oil from?
Import from? Yeah.
Who do we import?
Who do we import from?
I would guess Canada and maybe
You're north, now go south.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Nice.
63% of our production our imports come from Canada and Mexico. And then obviously we could be self-sustaining if we wanted to be. I think that's crazy. 2008. He and I remember that. I don't know if that side of the table remembers this at all. But drill, baby, drill. Right.
Baby,
that was a huge thing from 2008 Republican. Like that was like the
mantra.
crying chant. And we're drill, baby, drilling now. I mean, there's no question about it. It may not be how they thought it was going to happen, but certainly we are among the largest production sources in the world. So, Tyler, what is this? What does that mean? Try to give us some implications of us being now one, pretty self-sustaining from an energy perspective, and two, just the level of production change that we've experienced.
Well, I mean, if you go back to prior to fracking, we were nowhere near this production.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, fracking has become the main source, obviously. but I think what it helps is you hear a lot about OPEC Plus, including Russia, and they've kind of had the quote unquote price manipulation in the oil markets for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
But then with this now U.S. becoming the significant producer that we are, they haven't been able to control prices as much as I think they would have liked. And now, they're obviously pulling back, or they have been pulling back on production to try to keep prices where they're at, but they don't have as much influence over oil prices anymore. And so when you see oil prices, going to that $60 a barrel or higher, I think that's where you start to see the U.S. productions really start to ramp up. And then as it falls, it probably pulls back a little bit, right? Just because the higher the price means there's more demand than there is supply. So they need to meet that demand, right? Kind of basic economics. So I think from a overall perspective, it's good for the U.S. to not be as reliant on like a Russia or general OPEC, just because it's not, when you have stuff going on in the Middle East like we do now, or with Russia, Ukraine, right? Those are significant impacts to prices. And so if we were as reliant as we used to be on those on those countries, the prices would be through
Oil
the
be
roof,
a very different spot right now. Yeah.
So I think it's keeping the prices at bay. Obviously, we don't like seeing prices go higher or being at these elevated levels when we're used to them being at $45 a barrel. But I think it's certainly helped our overall economy and consumer being able to afford it.
Yeah.
Because we'd be in a very different situation if we were not producing this much.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Gangl, do you remember peak oil? Remember peak oil
I do.
conversations?
Goldman Sachs was calling for over $200 a barrel, right? And right now we're at around $78, I think. So that was when I think it got up to maybe 120. Did it
120? Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
120. And so everybody, once it ramped up from $60 to 120, everybody said peak oil $200. We're running out of oil. So it's obviously not the case. And then U.S. certainly wasn't the leader. And it's been now the last, I think it's almost a decade now that we've been producing the most, which surprises me now that the number 2 producer is actually Russia.
Yeah.
Well, so that
surprises me.
That's producer. So it's not exporter.
Yes, but that surprises me that they're actually producing that much.
They need to fill up their
but you figure with all the infrastructure and kind of the pullout with the Ukraine Russia stuff, I would thought that had been a little more impacted. Obviously, it doesn't seem to be the case. So that just statistically surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. I figured that they just wouldn't be able to pump out as much because where are they sending it? I mean, there's still nations,
China,
obviously.
India.
Yeah,
Still
exactly.
fungible,
it still goes, right? At the end of the day, it's still going.
Ships.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good point. Lisa, when we try to give us a sense of, because you didn't live through the peak oil conversations. None of us really lived through the 70s embargo area, right? But you remember, we've all seen in videos of the lines out the door and all that stuff. Think about how would EVs, EVs have been a lot of talk, right? Whether it's positive and they're going to take over all, and now probably more, I think people are pumping the brakes on it, for lack of a better term, a little bit. Talk about like how EVs are affected by the price of oil.
Yeah, I think, like you said, like it's pulling back. A lot of companies are pulling back their research or further development, and I think Musk kind of slashed all their employees when it comes to the
charging crew got
kind of charging expansion. So but I think what we would need going further with all the EI stuff that's coming up, we need a lot of energy. So I think that could be like some.
Yeah, because you're seeing like GM and Ford and all these companies are starting to say, well, that 2030 estimate of everything being electric, probably not going to happen, right? It's just, the takeaway that I think I take from this is that we always get over our skis on technological shifts. They're glacial. They're glacial in pace, right? I mean, Toyota's been saying this a long time, right, Tyler, about just kind of the hybrid technology about, hey, this is probably, the best of both worlds. Let's think about this rather than just pushing straight from one tech into the other. Yep. Let's use a mixture of the two and build the best things we can do under both circumstances. I think that's where still my head probably leans, is that oil's not going away anytime soon. There will be, I think the proliferation of EVs will continue to increase, but it probably increases at a much slower pace than anticipated, certainly. And then the hybrid component of that, about just being more productive with a mixture of both, I think is probably the best avenue for the next 5 to 10 years.
I think that's probably the route that it'll end up going, rather than 100% EV. And part of it is, I mean, lithium prices went through the roof. So the actual cost. And so what I think a lot of people were expecting is that as these other auto companies outside of Tesla or Lucid or the high priced brands, that as these other automakers like a Toyota or a Volkswagen enter the market, the cars are going to become cheaper.
Mhm.
And I just don't think they ever got cheap.
No.
Like, I think that
the used ones are.
Yeah.
Fuel batteries.
Yeah,
like even
exactly.
like the Volkswagen,
Your Duracell in the
yeah,
engine.
Exactly. The small Volkswagen, I think, was the base price was like 35,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like you can't get the majority of your consumer to get into that car because it's just so heavily priced.
Yeah, and for any bells and whistles, you're talking 50 grand plus,
exactly.
right?
So that it automatically X's out probably, I'd call it 70% of your potential market.
Well, in the
having
renter market too, right? I mean, who wants to go to a Target or whatever all day and have it charge up while you go shop? Like there's a convenience factor in there.
Yeah.
But unless you're a homeowner that can plug it in at night, I mean, I just think it's a real hindrance.
It is.
So that's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah. So you've heard GM pull back on their production. Obviously, Tesla is slashing prices, demand outlook, and they're slashing their employees as well.
Yeah.
So I think that the better route is that hybrid, just because you don't going from a straight gas to electric is a hard sell, just because I like the convenience of gas.
Yeah.
Right. So having that hybrid where I can have the convenience, but then also be more hopefully economically sound, I guess you could say, is probably the route that most people would rather go.
Yeah.
But again, those are still expensive. So I think that's the other question that a lot of these automakers have to deal with is, how do we get the prices down so that everybody can afford it?
Yeah.
To switch.
Yeah. No easy answers on that one.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to switch. We're going to have some fun here. As we've alluded to many times, we're delineated here. We're segregated to a certain extent from an age factor. So let's lean into that. We're going to have a little tag team match of old versus young. But what I want to talk about first over there, to give them the business a little bit, is I'm not going to mention that milestones were crossed. I'm just going to say that milestones may have been crossed.
May have been.
So may have been. I'm not. I think it occurred. It might have been a fever dream. I'm not sure. But here is the question I have for the young contingent over there to start with. As you've become more quote unquote experienced, what makes you feel old? Tyler,
I don't know if it's experience or my body just hurt.
What? You're a cross trainer. Maybe dial it back a little bit there.
He tried really bad too. He's walking on thin
Yeah,
ice.
exactly.
He tried really hard to
try not to smash any eggshells here.
But I've been looking forward to 30. Because like now that I'm out of the 20s, people don't look at me like a little kid anymore.
Okay.
At least that's how I feel. I don't know if that's
all
accurate.
right.
That's fair.
Look at that. He's all grown up.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for a little bit of the gray hair to come through, give me some added age.
You don't need that.
I was gonna say, Tyler, it sounds good in theory. Once it's there, it's really really not your fave.
Just keep your hair. You're good.
Lisa, what makes you feel, I don't want to say old, because no one here is old. Well, I am mentally. Well, mentally I'm like 12, but physically I'm like 78. What makes you feel like, man, I'm just not as I'm not what I used to be?
So I think overall, I think I'm slowly turning into a granny.
Okay.
And I'm totally fine with that, right? When I think of my evenings, how my evenings look now.
Yeah.
Compared with like a few years ago, it's like I cannot keep up with that anymore. And when you are in line, for example, behind Starbucks, and there's a bunch of early 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, and when you hear them talking, and I think actually I'm still young. I
Yeah.
still see myself
Well,
more
and
in the
you are.
20s than I in the next decade. But it's like when I hear people at that age actually talking and interacting, I was like, oh no, that's not my it's not my group anymore.
That's not me any
And then
longer.
I'm actually pretty happy too. I was like, I moved on, obviously.
I think the other thing, so Steph and I went out to dinner the other night, and I think we've lost the ability to understand how old people are that are younger than us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, we can't tell the difference between someone who's like maybe like 17, 18 versus someone that's like 22, 23.
Oh, that's
Like,
a tight
I-
range.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't tell the difference between anybody under 30.
yeah, and 18.
So,
Like,
like,
who are you?
it's like,
Yeah.
because we went out to a nicer restaurant, and there's this massive table of younger people there, and we were like, are they like 16 and their parents are paying for them to have this like real expensive dinner, or are they like in college and working and out for a good night? Like, I
don't know.
I can't tell the difference.
Yeah. You move further away from
Yeah.
yeah. But I think when you turn 30, so at least it was in my case, I don't know, I moved into a phase where you reflect a little bit of what you've accomplished, or are you where you want to be in your life? How did your goals turn out? How did your goals change from your early 20s? So yeah, I think it was a lot of reflection and stuff. And people actually, like you said, Tyler, people actually take you a little bit more serious because you have like some work experience, some life experience, not too much, but a little bit. And people kind of give you credit for that.
Give you a
right?
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but I think in the 30s, so what I felt, in addition to turning into a granny very slowly, which I'm fine with that, is
Well, you're going to be more crazy cat lady, though, right?
oh yeah, I'm a crazy cat lady.
Yeah,
Oh,
that'll be
totally.
fun.
That'll
Yes.
be good. That's a good look on you.
Oh yes, I'm totally a crazy cat lady. I love that. That's my dream.
What's your cat's name?
Sir Edmund Ferguson.
That is top shelf.
That
Yeah.
makes me chuckle.
Yeah, the hierarchy in the household is the cat. Then there's Long Nothing. Then it's me. Again, Long Nothing, and then my husband.
Yeah, that
So
makes
it's
sense.
like
Your
the
husband.
Perfect
hierarchy
sense.
is pretty clear
Yeah.
there, right? The cat is on the top. No, but what I mean when I turned 30 is like I think the seriousness of life caught you.
Oh,
I
interesting.
think so, because it's like, you might have like already a successful career or on the way, or some people have already successful businesses, starting families, buying houses, getting married. So I don't know, it's like it's getting more serious, your decisions.
Okay.
And I think generally the tolerance for making mistakes gets very low, right? Because if you want to make mistakes and want to figuring things out,
Yeah.
that's in your 20s, right?
Yeah.
Now you're in your 30s. Now everything is serious. Now get your things together, and now you should know basically where you are and kind of be the adult, even though you don't feel like it.
I was going to
It's
say.
like, yeah, it's like a weird.
When does that actually happen? Because
Right.
it never happened for
It's
me.
like a weird in
I haven't
between
had the
stage.
reflection.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So you guys probably don't have this yet. Gangl and I certainly do. There's these
Yeah, I do.
milestones where you think of things, that were a part of your functioning life that just are not, that just don't make sense to anybody young anymore. Like mine is, I was very member of a time where we didn't have the internet, where internet was not a thing. Whereas your generation never even experienced that, right? Like that, it's been ubiquitous for you all. Like the internet was a newfangled gadget for us.
Internet and cell phone, right? To
Cell
some point,
phones
right?
too,
I mean,
yeah. Yeah. Oh, my flip phone was
Yeah.
boss. I think I had
Yeah.
to two-hand that thing initially at the
Yeah,
outset.
that was
And the antenna. like kinda-
And Gangl, you're going through some life milestones right now, right?
Yeah, I'm a little older, so I got the biggest change probably for me is I got a daughter that actually graduated from college.
Mhm.
Put that in perspective, right? So I have one that graduated, and now she's going another 4 years in another school, but another one that's sophomore year in college, and then a son in high school. So that is very weird. So that's dating me. So that, and it's like, to your point of internet, we didn't have internet, cell phones growing up, and now like I actually graduated with math, computer science, so I was actually on the cutting edge of technology per se.
Cutting edge.
Cutting edge. Now it's just
Yeah,
like
the best advocates.
as I get older, it's like stuff's not working. So I got the kids like, asking the kids paid. I'm a jack. How do you fix it? And they're just like shaking. It's like, now I'm the old man. It's that in between. So that I know I'm old, and that, and I'm tripping over mostly my wife's, but a few of a pair of my cheater glasses in the house all the time. It's like, Jesus, where's time gone here now?
You bring those into the office every now and then. I'll walk by and Keith's holding them up to
Yeah,
to read something.
not
I'm
too
like,
high.
"Oh,
Yeah, I just blow up my screen bigger in the office. So I don't
Yeah.
have to do that.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Yeah. Those milestones will get you, man. Well, so Keith and I went to school near where you grew up.
Yes.
So we often end up talking about that area, about, you know,
And
because
I
that
hung
was
out.
my
I hung
college
out
life.
at his college quite a bit. With a lot of my friends.
So the college bar frequency there was like, we have that conversation all the time. And some of those memories are like crystal clear, where it's like, that didn't happen. Oh, that was a long time ago. And then to hear his kids are in college and actually graduating college is just like that. That's straight
I
lunacy.
think
No.
the bigger question is, are the bars still around?
Well, one of them blew up.
Did we look
One
at
of
that?
them legitimately blew up.
Yeah. It was,
And then
there's a few there quite still around.
there's a few that are
Yeah.
still around, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a few. There's a few
Is that one
stars.
the red carpet?
That
that
is
is one
that
of
is the one.
I
That
hate
is
to put names out there. But that's one of them.
yeah, exactly right. Oh, all right. Well, as we close out here, I want to hit the spaghetti wall and just talk about we're coming up on Memorial Day weekend, which especially for Minnesotans, it's the kickoff of summer, right?
Yeah.
It's never warm here up until then at that point anyway. So
Finally.
yeah, round the table here. What is priority one? I have to do this summer. Tyler, I'll start with you.
Nothing. I
What?
mean, we got 2 little kids, so we're just rolling with the punches and
Your deck's built, so you're good now for the rest of the
deck's
summer.
built,
Now
so
you're
we're
just gonna
good.
sit on
the
said deck
Yeah, yeah.
and enjoy
Well,
Frosty.
I guess I should say we'll do more projects. We've got, I don't know, I think we've got like 5 or 6 other projects lined up. So it'll be a busy
Oh my
summer.
All right.
But at least
5 or 6.
at least the kids can
Nothing
be
I get
of
it.
5 or 6 projects.
I decorated my balcony. That was my one and only project, and it already exhausted me, right? I put plants out there. That's everything I do.
Well, Lisa, you are now an airplane owner.
Plus, I hear you're taking lessons.
Oh, what? Oh, I
She's
didn't
gonna
catch
be
this.
Yeah, she's gonna be a pilot herself, just like Mr.
Oh, you
D.
are.
yeah.
Very cool.
So I think that's my big project. In my leisure time this summer is doing the pilot's license and get done.
Are you two
Before
going to
it's getting
argue
cold.
over who drives when that kind of goes on? Or
I think so. It's like, I mean, I have to do it with a flight instructor
Sure.
and not with my husband, which is, I think, great because I don't think that would work out quite
Right.
well.
yeah,
Because,
no fighting on a plane. That's
right,
probably a bad
because-
idea.
Yeah, because when I compare it to how we both drive, and I'm obviously the
Superior driver.
yeah,
right?
obviously,
clearly.
yes,
Yeah.
correct. And when I see that, and I don't know if it's the same with flying then, but I was like, I think we're up for like some fun adventures. So I'm happy to learn it with somebody else.
Do you have any travel? I mean, I know you like to travel, being here in
Yeah.
the U.S. and see different stuff. Do you have anything scheduled for the summer?
My family is coming in July actually
That'll
for
be
the first
fun.
time, so they finally figured out that planes work both ways.
Well, they were waiting for you to come pick them up.
Right.
Your new plane.
Now, the first they thought, like, we're coming when you have a house, then we, have more space. And I'm like, you probably have to wait a little longer for that. So
Right.
you better come now. So they're coming in July. So we show them around and kind of show them Minnesota and
Nice.
part of Wisconsin. So I think that's also like the majority of what we will do. Then I do the license. So I probably will maybe venture a little bit around in smaller airports around Minnesota.
I hear you're going somewhere tomorrow.
Yes, I'm going to Texas for the first time for my first client event.
Oh, that's
I'm excited for
fantastic.
that. Yeah, and then we stay for the holiday down there.
You'll
Very
like it down there.
Yeah.
Definitely warmer. Gangl, what do you got going?
Well, I live on a lake, like
Yes, you
most of
do.
you guys are aware. So there's always projects. I mean, the joy of living on a lake is, you got the pontoon, the jet ski there, and you can go out whenever you want.
Mhm.
But now, like again, I mentioned I have 3 kids. It's I got to sign up for my slot on the time when I want to get on my own boat. Right?
Google Calendar.
They constantly have friends, which we enjoy that they have them over and stuff like that. But there's always work to be done. You're putting docks in. Actually, 2 nights ago, I had my dock in at the end of February when ice went out so early. That's like by far the record. The ice normally doesn't go out for another month plus. So had the dock in, put my pontoon lift in, feeling really good about myself. Rest of spring's been not great weather. Got the pontoon in, but I didn't have it all in place until actually like 2 nights ago. So literally
Oh.
I had the pontoon in, the dock in, but didn't get to use it until about 2 nights ago. And I got everything put in where it should be now finally. So that was a major checkbox, but the rest of the summer, just kind of playing around in a lot of projects. So
You gonna kill yourself on your buddy's wakeboard?
now Jeremy's referring to a wakeboard incident I had when, I've been
I've never
around
seen
lakes
someone
and
get hurt like that wake surfing.
it's
Right.
pretty much impossible, right? Is like, so I skied my entire life, and my neighbor's got a nice big one of those wake boats, and he goes, "Oh, why don't you try wake surfing? If you guys are familiar with it, it's pretty cool. You on a surfboard type of thing behind a boat, you drop the rope. It looks really cool, and you're only going about 10 miles an hour. It's like,
It looks really cool, and other people do it.
it does." And he goes, "Yeah, Keith, you can do it." It's like, I don't know, I might get hurt. He goes, "Oh, no one ever gets hurt on these things. You're going 10 miles an hour. You're behind the boat. It's like when you fall in the wake, the boat's going in the other direction. You're not going to hit the boat, no problem." So, of course, first time I get out there with a couple dads on the, dad night on the lake. So had a couple beers and like, "All right, Keith, you're up. Jump on there." Boom, right out of the water. I'm up on the thing. Then all of a sudden, you're on these wakes that are probably 4 or 5 feet high. All of a sudden, the wakeboard started to go one way, and all of a sudden, my one leg went off the other way, and all of a sudden, I did like a complete V in my legs. Like I feel like a snap, and I was like, "Oh," I wiped out, and it was like, "That's you wiped out. You're only going 10 miles an hour, so that didn't hurt so bad." And all of a sudden, my leg just like someone ripped it off, and I'm like, "Oh, it hurts." And the guy goes, "Oh, that wasn't so bad, was it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of got hurt." He goes, "No one ever gets hurt." I'm like, "Yeah, I think I did." He goes,
I set the precedent.
so he goes, "Well, you can get up." So anyway, I go again. I get up and do a lap, and then boom, I'm done. I go home that night. Next day, I get up. I literally have the size of a football, black and blue mark on my inner leg. It looked just absolutely horrible, and I was limping around for about a month. It was so embarrassing that the guy on the lake, I would see him on, I'd be on my pontoon, he'd be on his boat, and he'd wave, and they're like, "Oh, how's it going?" "Good." You want to go wake surfing?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." I never told him until about
Hiding
3
the
months
legs.
later.
Yeah, exactly. I like walking over.
After the summer was over and he couldn't ask to go wake surf anymore, then Keith told him.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
right.
Hopefully he
exactly what it
forgets
was.
By the
Yeah.
next summer.
So I have gone again, son. It was much more enjoyable the
Nice.
second time.
Oh, well, on that note, I can't beat that. So we're gonna call it a day here.
What are you doing?
No, see, I actually am you, Tyler. I want to do literally nothing, and I will accomplish
you
this.
had you prepared for your great summer with your outside spa area.
Yes. So I got the swim spa.
Mhm.
What have you got? We talked about this last week. Did you get a quote back yet?
I did, and it wasn't favorable.
So
That's what got us to talk about buying versus renting.
Wow. Just bitter, I think that's the whole
I'm
conversation.
just living in the bitter barn.
So no deck this summer.
My deck is looking better and better by the day. My existing one, it's like that ain't so bad. I can still sit on it.
It's gonna be
Just
falling off the house.
some a
and
little
sitting out there
crooked,
on a
yeah.
chair. We're good.
Kids
No
are
extra
just
work.
sliding off the edge.
into the spa pool.
Yeah, right into the spot.
Right.
Yeah, it's just become a slide now.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't look like, always to be continued, to be determined, but it doesn't look as good. So yeah, Jeremy wants to spend his time in the swim spa, which has gone now from, it was a little bit of culture shock. So I had at 100, 101 sitting there before. And then I went in there at 85. I was like, "Oh, that's not right." So I had to change it down, but I went down a little too low and got in there. I was like, "Oh, freezing." So Jeremy still got a little figuring out to do on the temperature gauge. But outside of that is my main mission. So on that note, let's call it a day. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for Lisa for coming.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
I'm sure you'll be back again.
Ooh, another one.